recording this session, which I have started now, and we will make that available, this presentation available to everyone that's here on the call and those that missed it. All right, Connie?
Thanks so much, Shauna. Welcome, everybody. Exciting topic today is how to make sure we can get the most out of Maximizer by finding stuff and reporting on it. So we're going to focus on looking at all the things we can do around searching and reporting. I'm going to start with a really brief slideshow, and then I'm going to go into Maximizer, and it's actually my own personal Maximizer, and I'm going to demonstrate some examples for you. And then I'm going to do some stuff from scratch so you can see how it's possible to do it on your own. And then after that, it's all on you. You can go back and practice and try this stuff and replay this webinar and be really good at searching and reporting. So let's start with the slideshow. So first off, if you were attending that session back in December that I did live, you will have remembered that I've said Maximizer is definitely amazing at searching, but it's not Google. You kind of need to know how to search stuff in Maximizer, and just searching for words in the little box at the top right corner is never going to get you everywhere you want to go. So we need to be a bit more organized, a bit more specific, and we need to have a few little tricks up our sleeve in terms of what we can see on our screen. And so I'm going to give you all that today as we go through this together. I'm going to show you how when you're searching, you can search many different ways. So of course, most people find that little box at the top right corner, that search box. That's one option, but very limited in what it can do for us. So we can, use it when we need to, but other options are definitely going to be better for us. So we can also have the columns on our screen set up so that we can easily search and sort on stuff there. We can use the search menu and advanced search in there and all kinds of other features in the search menu that we'll talk about today. We can save our searches, and we can even create a little shortcut that we can go back to over and over again. So when we get into searching and reporting today, I'm going to show you how to search, how to set up your columns, and that's for the purpose of searching and for the purpose of reporting. Okay, so that's everything I wanted to tell you as an intro. I'm now going to switch over to a Maximizer screen. So just give me a second. And hopefully you all can see that I'm in Maximizer now. If you are chatting with me in the chat window, just know that I'm not looking at it all the time, and that's Shauna's kind of helping me out in that respect. So she will sort of pinpoint to me anything that you need me to address at the moment. Otherwise, I'll come back to the chats at the end of the session and make sure I can try and answer anything that's pertinent to today's topic. All right, so I'm in Maximizer, and I'm going to start with actually showing you if I went to just looking at, actually I want to go to the search menu is one of our options that we talked about, and also at the top right, this is kind of what I find people use the most is the search box up here. So I'm sure you've tried it at some point in your lifetime with Maximizer. One of the things to keep in mind is it's not searching for every single thing we've ever put into Maximizer. It's predominantly searching for the name, address, and so the name being the first name or the last name, the company name, the address, the phone number, and there might be another couple things that I'm not thinking of right now, but if I hover on there, actually see how it pops up. I'm hovered on there, and it's saying it's also looking for the email address. Now, the other thing to keep in mind with this box up top here is this icon to the left of it. And it also says, kind of in fine print, if you notice on mine, it says search for individuals. So it's actually searching for only a certain type of entry in my Maximizer. It's not searching for everything when it says this. So if I click on this drop down, I have choices. I can say I want to search my address book, which means it could be a company name, it could be a person's name, and that person could be an individual or a contact. Address book is the safest when you haven't got a clue where it might be, right? So you know it's somewhere in Maximizer, you kind of know the name, but you're not sure how it was entered because maybe it wasn't you that did the entry. So address book is kind of that safeguard way of doing it. If you know that you did it and you're very methodical in how you do your entries and you know you would have entered it as an individual, then you're going to go to that drop down and change to individuals. Right? Leads, just let me touch on this for a second. Leads is a feature that lets you narrow down on specific entries in Maximizer. As far as I know, I don't think anybody within your different organizations there are using this feature, so I'm just going to say to ignore it for now. And if someone is, you can let us know what your use of that is. In my clients that have businesses would definitely use this for that aspect of leads. Okay, opportunities you wouldn't use, but customer service cases is your cases that we'll talk about in the next session. So that's where you would go to search those. All right, so address book entries could be the safest. If you know you've entered in as an individual, then that's certainly an option for you. But if you know somebody is in your Maximizer, but you're not sure if it was entered as an individual or as a contact, go back to that address book entry choice, because then it'll find them either way. Then that'll find individuals or contacts with that name. Okay, makes sense, I hope. And then we're just typing in, so if I'm looking for Hank, I'm going to just type in Hank and then hit enter, and it searches for all the Hanks that I know in my Maximizer. So in this case, you see that there is an individual. This first entry is an individual, and the other two are contacts of companies that I have in Maximizer. And so the actual examples I'm using today with our group here is I'm using the word test in all of my entries so that I can quickly search for those fake entries that I put in place to demonstrate to you. Now, the thing about this is I just did a search of test, and you see I have fake individuals, but I also have used the word test for company entries, which I'm not going to be demonstrating today, but that's kind of cool that you saw that both of those types of entries came up, because I'm still on that address book view. So let's go back, and I'm going to change that to individuals now. And test is still up there. And there is a little drop down kind of keeping track of all the searches you've done. So you could go back to that drop down, but I'll just hit enter on the word test and go from there. Okay, so enough said about that. There's also just one more thing, is there is a little X there that clears out that entry, and of course you can delete, but the X lets you clear it out really quickly. So I use that if I know the name or something like that I'm searching for. Otherwise, I'm using one of these other methods that I'm going to show you now. I would use the search menu. And search menu, I do have the option of searching for a last name or a first name, so that's very specific. And when I look for a last name or first name, let me just go to one of those. It does assume individuals and contacts, but you can certainly uncheck one of them if you know the person you're searching for is an individual that you entered. If you're not sure, leave them both check marked, and so that it can find either one. So if I type the word Hank, I'm not going to do that right now, but if I type the word Hank in there, I get those three Hanks again. Okay, I'm going to cancel that. In the search menu, there's all kinds of cool stuff in here. I'll let you play with this a little bit on your own. I've only got an hour, so I want to make sure I touch on the high points of stuff that you need to know. And the big area that you're probably going to want to be searching in is more to do with your user-defined fields. So stuff that you've customized within Maximizer so that you could then pull up a list. You want to pull up a list for your Christmas cards or for an invite, or maybe you want to just know who visited the office last month. So there's various ways we can do these searches. And that's going to be using that search menu. So let's start with a Christmas card search. So I'm going to go to, and I know Christmas is over, but we'll still use it. It's a very popular search. I'm going to go to search, and then, advanced search. And then I have this great big blank box, and that's where I'm going to put in my search criteria. So I can put in as many criteria as I want. Again, we're at the beginning here, so I'm trying to, and a basic level really, so I'm going to keep it really simple and just say we're searching for one criteria. So I'm going to go to the add and put in that criteria. So is that criteria coming from a basic field, which means Maximizer already provided me the box to fill in, or did I make the field up, which means I've customized a user-defined field? And so the mailing one is a field that we would have made up. So we're going to hit the plus on mine is hidden in the test folder. And then I'm going to go to mail out. And if you did have more than one criteria, you certainly could pick more than one here. You have to be really careful when choosing more than one criteria. And the reason you have to be careful is because sometimes the logic doesn't work in your favor. So you have to really make sure you understand your own logic or how the computer is going to work as well. So I'm looking for Christmas card. I'd always suggest when you're doing searches, always search for one thing at a time. And then as you get really good at searching, you can make it more complicated and search for more than one thing. So one thing, Christmas card. Choose OK. So that's my one criteria. Mail out's equal to Christmas card. At the bottom, the only thing you want to be maybe careful of here is the third box here, which you want to make sure it says replace the list, which means I get a new list of entries that match this criteria. The first box here, because they only have one criteria, doesn't matter. Second box, I have everything check marked. Again, if it's your database and you know you've put the check mark on the Christmas card for the right people, then I wouldn't worry about whether companies is checked off or not, because most likely you didn't put the word Christmas card on a company entry anyways. And if you did, this way you catch it. So I'd leave all of these check marked just as a safeguard. So the only thing I really need you to double check is it replaces on, which it should be by default. So let's just choose OK, and we'll see who do we have for Christmas card. All right, so I have 4 people on my list for Christmas card. If I want to then take this list and send it into Excel so that I can then merge it with Word or print off labels from Excel, I would then need to make sure that before I send to Excel, because I have these little buttons here that send it to Excel, the easiest way to send to Excel is just make sure I have all the right columns in place for Excel to use. And so that's where the column setup comes in. So I'm going to maybe just have that noted for after. I'll do an example of an address. Let's make a note. Address columns for our mail out. So I've got it written down as an extra note to come back to. I want to continue with searches for now. So again, you would just make sure the columns here were all the columns you needed to address a label. Okay, let's go back to search, and I want you to see at the top of the search menu you have undo search, so I can go back to the list I had before my search, and that lets me see. I mean, I certainly could search for something separate or different if I wanted to, but undo search just lets me go back to the way it was prior to my search. You don't have to undo a search before you do your next search. It's up to you as to whether that makes sense or not. Okay. And then undo search, by the way, I can keep undoing all the searches I did. So if I did 6 or 7 searches, I could go undo search, undo search, undo search until I get back to that first list. Okay. So there's one example of a search for us with using the search menu and searching advanced fields. I'm going to do another example in the search menu with advanced search. And this time I'm going to go and search for, well, let's search for another field. That's a table field. So table and field meaning that there's more than one entry in it. And in this case, I'm going to say that I want to look at the one for issues. And we'll say education issues. So I could just pick one of these entries to say I'm looking for all the people that have contacted our office about an issue regarding busing. Or what I could do is I could say who's contacted us about any of these issues. So I could actually check off all of them. And now when I check off all of them, it's giving me the option of the education issue is either the boundaries or the busing or the teacher's pension. So any of those issues is what they might have contacted us about. So I'm just getting a little bit braver here with more than one selection for you, just so you can see how that evolves. And then I'm going to leave everything else the same at the bottom and choose OK. So anybody with education issues, And I see my columns aren't really suited for my example, so I'm just going to change my columns just for a second here. Sorry, guys. And I did make a column for us today, so at the very I have lots of columns of my own. So I'm just going to retrieve the one that makes sense for what we're talking about. Okay, and so then you can see under education issues that I've got a number of them, well actually only 2 different ones showing up here. So I do have that option of saying, let's find all the people that have contacted us with any of the education issues. So that's 4 people. I'm going to reverse that logic now. And what I mean by reversing that logic, sorry, I want to go back to that column. Back to the same column. There. All right. So what I mean by reversing the logic is I want to find all the people that don't have any education issues. And so this is my example. Hopefully you can think of another example that maybe makes sense for how you could use it. Maybe you're saying that don't have a Christmas card invite, or who don't haven't filled in the consent form, or so who is it that we have in our list that don't match this criteria? So we would go to search, and then we go to advanced search again, and then we're going to add in that criteria as if we're asking for it. So issues, education, and then we could certainly, there's a few ways of doing this, but I'm going to just show you the quickest way here, and that is to choose a search for no value, which means there's nothing checked off on the entry. So search for no value. So education issues equals no value. So again, that means there's nothing checked off in that field. So that means that person has never came into our office with an education issue. So we should get, in this case, out of our 6, we should get 5 of them, or 4 of them. Sorry, I can't count. I'm talking and thinking at the same time. Sorry, guys. We should get 2 of them. And the reason I have to talk and think at the same time is I'm just thinking to myself, I've got thousands and thousands of entries in my maximizer, so I don't want to bring up all of those, because that's what would happen right now, is if I just said bring up everything that doesn't have this value, it's going to bring up thousands of entries. I only wanted to bring up this value not existing within this list I'm looking at right now. So hopefully you can guess where I'm going to go next. I'm trying not to make this too complicated, but I'm going to have to change my criteria in that I don't want to replace my list with a new search result, because it's going to pull in all my real data. I want to actually just narrow down the current list I have on my screen to meet this criteria here. Okay, does that make sense to you? So I'm narrowing down. I have 6 people on my screen. These are people that I have on my list, let's say, and then I'm wondering how many of these people do not have, have never contacted us for this reason. So I narrowed down the list. And I get 2. Okay. So that's kind of neat that it lets us kind of go. So, but then that way we kind of did a couple of stages there, because we did the idea of it's not equal to this value, and we also did the idea of it's narrowing the current list. So I'm going to undo that search. Now, a very easy alternative to that, if your system is set up for this, is that all I need to do is sort that column. And that's going to take us into some examples in a few minutes here on sorting columns. But notice that in the column set that I have right now, I have the name, and I also have education issues as a separate column here. Name is normally what's sorted, because we want to sort the names of the people that we deal with alphabetically, but it doesn't have to be the only column that's sorted. I could sort any column I want. And so in this case, I'm going to sort education issues. And when you sort a column and the triangle's pointing up, that means it's sorted A to Z. And what sorts in front of any letter is a bunch of numbers. So if there were numbers in this column for some reason, those would sort before the letters. And then before that is all the blanks. Or actually, if I have to really tell you, what really is before a number is a character, like a star or an at symbol or that kind of thing. And blanks are the very first thing that are sorted, though. So in other words, the order of sorting within Maximizer is blanks first at the top of the column, then any kind of weird character like a star or a pound sign or that kind of thing, and then numbers and then letters. So to find the blanks, who hasn't contacted us for education issues, I just sort that column. I don't have to do a search. So that's kind of another little trick with it, right? Just have the column in place and then you can find those people. And then if you want to do something special with those people, like print out a list, you just select those people. Now I know I only have 2, so it's very fast to select 2 of them, but if I had a whole bunch, then I would have you click on the first one and shift click on that last one. Okay, and then you can hit the export to Excel, and that's a report for you if you want within Excel of those people that don't meet that criteria. Just make sure the columns that you have set up are the ones you want to see when you're looking at Excel. Okay, we're going to go to columns in a few minutes. I just have to make sure I show you enough examples of searching first. All right, so we've done a couple of searches now. I'm focusing more on the more advanced searches and expecting you guys to check out the search menu with the other ones. But another one I wanted to demonstrate is an alphanumeric search. So let's say you wanted to find out one of your fields is alphanumeric, and you want to find out where there's information in that field. And so the field example I'm going to use is spouses' names. So let's say I want to know how many entries have I filled in that have a spouse's name. So I'm going to show you 2 examples of this. I hope you don't mind. The first one is if I'm searching within alphanumeric. Alphanumeric is, as it's trying to describe, letters and numbers. So to start with the lowest number is what you have to do. First, so 0 is the lowest number, and then you go to the highest letter, so that would be Z. So if I'm trying to find anything in an alphanumeric field, I go 0 to Z to find anything in an alphanumeric field. So it says 0 to Z. So where is spouse's name really have information in it? And this is, if I'm saying it could be as low as, and you wouldn't expect there to be a number, but you know, I've seen all kinds of data in my day, and nothing ever surprises me. So just trust me, put a 0 in there just in case there's some weird entry, and then you can deal with it then when you find it and go, okay, who made this typo, or how'd that get in here, and then you can fix it, right? But don't assume. Like, always verify before you assume. It's good to just kind of go and double check it. All right, and I'm not going to change anything in here because spouse's name is only really belonging to this test field. So I'm going to say okay, and I should find a few entries. All right, so I found 4 entries showing. Now I'm going to give you another way of doing that. So I'm going to undo that search. And I'm going to go back to advanced search. I hope this is helping. Hope you guys think this is making sense. Spouse's name. This time, I don't want to put anything in here. I'm not going to put any value in here. I'm going to say search for no value. Okay. Now, just make sure your head is really clear. Be paying full attention to what I'm about to say, because this is totally based on logic. So what this is saying right now is I'm looking for where there's no value in spouse's name, which is meaning it's blank. But I just told you earlier I want to find where I have spouse's names entered. So I want the opposite of that. So the opposite of that is to say not equal to a blank. Right? Makes sense? Kind of like a double negative. So spouse's name is not equal to no value, which means there has to be a value in the spouse's name box. And that value could be anything, right? Somebody could have typed the letter Z in there by itself, or the number 2. Who knows what was typed in there? It's alphanumeric. So let's just say, okay. This is how, by the way, I find stuff, the weirdest things sometimes in databases is like, just doing these kind of searches, like where is there something in there, but I'm not sure what it could be. So I'm just going to say I'm looking for, it's not equal to empty. Really, it's not empty is what this is saying, not empty. Let's say okay, and I'll get the same 4. Okay, so I know this is supposed to be basic searching. This is a little bit advanced, so you guys can go show off to all your colleagues that didn't take this course training because they thought they were advanced. See if they know this. But I just want to make sure you guys are geared up for any kind of search. All right, so I'm still finding those 4 people there. Now, I'm going to go back to undo my search. And I have a consent form example, which is a date field. I'm just going to fill in a date for one more person. So just bear with me while I do that. And let's just say it is he signed this consent form last week or 2 weeks ago, I guess. Okay, so I've got a couple from February, Come on. And I'm just going to refresh my screen so it shows that one there. So February 6th and February 3rd. So this example I want to show you is how do I do a search within a date range. So maybe there's a few people that I'm looking for that have signed a consent form in the month of February, for instance. So I'm going to do search, advanced search, and then go look for that particular field. So that's a date field, in case you're wondering. It's not alphanumeric. You would never do that and really benefit from searching based on a month. So it's a date field, consent form. Now, when you're searching for a date field, you've got a couple of options going on. You have one option called a rolling date. And the reason you have a rolling date option is it's kind of convenient because I can say, hey, I'm looking what that is, and it's got based on a very interesting time frame, or very specific time frames. It's called a rolling date because it's not picking like last month based on this month is January, but last month will be February. So it's rolling based on when you do the search is what that means. Last month is always last month, no matter when you search it. And when you'd want to use something like that is when you save this search. I'm always looking for people that signed the consent form in the last 3 months or this year or whatever rolling date you want to pick. You can see there's lots of choices here. And then you can make that a saved search. I have clients that like to do birthday cards, so they might use rolling date to keep track of who has a birthday next month, so that they can get the birthday card ready and send it before the actual birthday. And that way they just go to the saved search for next month. They don't have to type in, March 1st to March 30th or whatever, right? It's a rolling date. So I'm going to say last month being January. I only have one that fits that criteria, but let's try it. And I should get one. Yeah. So I'm going to go back to search, advanced search. And this time, rather than type that all in again, I'm just going to go to last search at the bottom here because that's going to call up the criteria that I just asked for. So it brings up the last search. I'm going to change that search. And I don't want last month, so I'm going to remove that criteria out of there. So I just hit that remove button there. And I can pick a specific date range if I want to, right? I just don't want you to know, I want you to see an example of that as well. So, this definitely is the same as saying last month, but maybe I want to say everything from January 1st to now. That's very specific. There is no rolling date for that example. Okay, so I'm going to say add everything from January 1st to right now and choose OK and OK again. So again, this kind of date field is popular, a date search is popular with people looking for things like birthdays, because then they can find that birthday month. But maybe you have some other scenarios that you're using where you're keeping track of a certain date. We could be doing these searches, by the way, in cases as well. So right now I'm doing everything in the address book, but everything I'm talking about in the address book can be followed through into the cases area as well. Okay. So I think that's it for my examples with the searching of the user-defined fields. I'm going to go on now to talk about 2 other searches, and then we're going to do column setups. So 2 other searches that I want to talk to you about is that we've done the search box here, we've done the search menu here. You also have the option of searching within a column, so we've kind of talked a little bit about that by me telling you that you can certainly find the blanks at the top, but it also lets you find stuff in the column. So I'm going to bring back my full list by undoing my search. Oh, and that's not my full list, is it? So I have to undo my search a couple times. Right? So I could type in the word test and that would just give me my full list again as well, but I like you guys seeing the undo search option, so that's why I'm showing off that one. And let's say I'm looking for people that fit a particular, I'm looking for a particular user-defined field, but I don't want to do a search. I could just then do that sort that we were talking about. So I'm sorting right now on education issues. And by the way, do you notice if I click that column again, it sorts it backwards? Z to A versus A to Z. And within that column, if I start typing now, T for teachers, I'm on that entry. So that's kind of a fast way of searching for something. I don't have to go into my search menu if I don't want to. I can just start typing it in. So that works great there. We're going to test it somewhere else, though. I mean, that works great there because it's all by itself. I can see it. It's sorted, and it's easy for it to spot. But let's try it here on type of contact. What if I type in VIP? Notice how it goes to where there's VIP by itself, but it doesn't catch the person that has VIP attached to it along with another entry. So when you have a table where somebody could have more than one value happening in that table, sorting and then just typing it in is not going to do the trick for you, because that entry could be in amongst other entries within that table. So that's where the search we just finished doing, if I was really looking for VIPs, my best bet would always be to go search, advanced search, type of contact VIP. Okay, so but sometimes the sorting by the column and typing it in will work. I'm just giving you a scenario where it doesn't work. Okay, if I sort my columns, by the way, notice that this is sorting very nicely for me. The age, the birth date. I'm just going to make this a bit wider. You're going to see after how I can make it permanently wider. But the birth date, it's all sorting date-wise by the year. So 1975, 1980, 1990, because those are entered in as dates with the original year kept in place. So this age column is actually an age duration field. If you were in my user-defined field session last time, we talked about different user-defined fields, and one of them is called a duration field, which calculates the age for you. I never typed any of this stuff in. It was just typed in. So let's just do a quick example of that. Let's say Joe here. And it has no birthday yet, so let's put a birthday in there for him. Let's say his birthday is January 3rd. I don't know how, should we make him younger? 85. I like that number, I guess. Oh, I don't know what I just hit. Hit enter. So I typed that in. Now I just have to hit the refresh on the right here to refresh my screen. So it calculates the age. See how that happened? Just wanted to show that off to you. That's just called a duration field. So if you haven't checked that one out before, make sure you do. All right. So the columns are very cool because they let us see information and find information within the column, but finding doesn't always work when that information's mixed up amongst other stuff. It works fine if it's just one piece of information, but when there's two, it's not working as great. So that was our quick little demo there. Another example I want to show you is how we can save a search. So if I'm searching over and over and over again for the same thing, I don't want to have to go back to my search menu, advanced search every time. I'll just choose last search. Yeah, I don't really want that search though, so I'm going to remove that. Let's say maybe I am doing a search of my constituents all the time. So let's just do a search of that. But I'm going to save this search. So I'm always looking for that list of people. So type of contact is where constituents is. I'm going to check mark constituent. So that's the search I want. I don't need to worry about this or this. This says replace, so that's great. So everything down here is fine. I should change my column setup. Let's just show you this little trick. I'm going to tell it to show me the test column setup. So whatever column setup I like looking at the best with my constituents is what I want to have chosen here. And now I'm going to go to what's called catalog. And catalog lets me save this criteria into a saved search. So catalog, I have lots of catalogs already. So I'm going to add a new catalog and we're going to call it, I'm using stars just so my test examples show up at the top. Test constituent search. And I like to put descriptions sometimes, especially if I have more than one criteria. I'm keeping it simple with you guys and just doing one criteria, but if there was more than one criteria, you always want to describe what it was your search was looking for. So I'm just going to say searches type of contact for constituent. And I'll make it public so anybody can use it. And the column setup, it didn't save that one even though it's on the other screen. I want to make sure it uses this all UDFs one. Choose OK. Right, so that's a saved search. And I'm going to retrieve that. Choose OK. So it's just going to show me all the constituents. Now, I did retrieve at the very end, and that's an important point for me to make for you, is that when we're doing that search and we're making a catalog out of it, I mean, you want to retrieve it, first of all, make sure it works, and if it doesn't, go back, and you're going to have to change that catalog or delete that catalog and start over again. You want to make sure your search works, otherwise what's the point of saving it? Now, once I've retrieved it, though, so retrieving is the other reason I want to retrieve it is I want to actually go back to my search menu now and not go back to advanced search. I want to go to last catalog searches, and that's where I see test constituent search. That's only in my list because I did that as a retrieve. I retrieved that search. So let me just go back and undo my searches. Hang tough, guys, because I've done a couple of searches now. Okay, so I'm back to my original 6. And now let's go to search. Last catalog search. And this is in there because I hit that retrieve button. That is the reason why it's there. All right, and so then I get my 4 people as a constituent listing, right? And I want to make sure I have the right columns here. So I picked the UDF columns, but we can make different column setups as well. Okay, and one more saved search that you can do is when we're saving the search in a catalog, we can make a button out of it. I have lots of cool little buttons. The one I made for you is this little envelope one. And this one is a search that finds people that want to get the annual fundraiser letter, or maybe I want to send the annual fundraiser letter too. So if I click on this little button, it changes my list to people that have under mail out annual fundraiser. Right, so all that happened to make that possible is I went to search, advanced search. I'm going to go to catalog here. You'll see annual fundraiser is in my catalogs. And then all I did differently is I added the icon to the add to icon bar. So see how it says it gives me an option of all kinds of little icons here. So I can pick any little picture I want to represent that. It's not going to let you make your own, so sorry for that, but it's giving you a lot of choices here, so you'll just have to make use of that. I'll just change it just so you can see it different. Okay, and retrieve, and okay. All right, so now this, if I hover on it, you're going to see it says the name of that button, but the button itself is what's giving you that search. All right, so that's all your searches. You can search by using this search box, but very limited. You can search by using the menu. Tons of stuff in here. I certainly didn't do all the different examples, but I spent my time on the advanced search, which is where you guys can customize any search based on user-defined fields, or even you can use basic fields like city or name and all that kind of stuff. But the only reason I would ever use a basic field is because I have more than one criteria. Maybe I'm saying they're a constituent and the city is Edmonton, right? So that's why I would use the advanced search for the word city, because I'm combining it with some other criteria. So that's very powerful. And then you also found that you could search and create a catalog that then shows up in this little list here, right? And you can make a button. And then, of course, use your columns to search on. So let's talk about columns now. Let's get into that, and let's talk about how the columns can help you, of course, with these searches, but also for your reporting. So how do you make a column setup? We're gonna go there. I'm just gonna undo my search so I get more names here. I can just search for test again, but undoing so fun. All right, so I have all these names in here, and you can see my column setup's called all UDFs because I wanted to make sure I had a column example that lets you guys see all the data that's been typed into these user-defined fields that were put in place as examples. Now, let's say we want a column set up for that mail out example we talked about earlier, where we want to do a Christmas card mail out. Then if we want a column set up for that, we're going to go into the view menu and into column setup. You're going to see any existing column setups you have already. So this test with all UDFs is the one I'm using right now. And you can just make a new one by adding. I'm going to suggest, just for time purposes, you might want to pick one that already has, a couple things in it that you want, and then use the save as. I mean, this one might be a little bit of work because I have quite a few columns I probably don't need. So I'm going to do save as on this one, test with UDF. Let me just show you what that one looks like first. So this column setup has phone numbers, red flag, and the type of contact. This one is pretty good. I mean, obviously I'm missing all the address fields, but maybe I don't need as many phone number fields, but it's pretty good that I could just change this column setup, or I can just make a new one based on this one. So I'm going to make a new one based on this one. So column setup. You could say add from scratch if you want. I'm just showing you a little trick. If there's one that has a few things in it that you like, that's why you'd pick the save as. So I'm going to go ** test address for mailouts, we'll say. All right, so I have some phone numbers in here. Let's say I don't need all these phone numbers, so I'm just going to click on, and I'm sorry, this does flash a bit. It's a little bit wonky. I don't know if wonky is the right word here. A little bit, yeah. It's just going to flash around a little bit as I add stuff and take things away. I'm going to delete phone number 4 because I don't really want that one. Okay, and now I'm going to add all the columns that I do need. So I'm going to go to the Add button and insert. The default address book view, by the way, has I think a lot of the address columns in it. So that might be the one you want to go to Save As with. Let's say address line 1. I'm going to add in, and I'm going to add a separate column for every piece of information. This is you're probably better off doing it that way, even though it'll let you put more than one thing in a column, so be careful of that. But I want to add a separate one because when I get to my spreadsheet in Excel, I'll just have way more flexibility if everything's in a separate column. So I'm the third column. So if you make a mistake, just delete the column and do it again. So I'm going to say city. So I put address line 1 and address line 2 in. I don't use address line 2 that much, but I'm just showing you this because if you don't know for certain if address line 2 is filled in, you should probably have it show just so you can verify. Okay, and then I'm going to go to, these words are in terms of more US-based things, so it's got state, country, province, not province by itself. And then add again. Unless yours, maybe you guys had your systems modified. I don't know, maybe yours does say province. You'll have to double check. Let me know. And this one is zip code, not postal code. So again, I don't know if yours says postal code, but the default is zip code. Okay, so I have the name of the person, I have their full address, I have whether they're a red flag, I have the type of contact. I probably should add in the mail out field just to verify that I have the right mail out information showing. So I'm just going to open up my user defined fields, go to my test, go to mail out, and choose OK. And then if I don't like where some of these fields are showing, like red flag, maybe I don't want, sorry, it's flashes on us here. If I don't want red flag in the middle there, I have to use the arrow key, but really be careful. Don't go click crazy on this because this takes time to change. So I'm going to click once on the arrow to move it down. It flashes. Twice. I'm just going to be very patient with it because if I'm not, it's going to hang up on me. So I'm just going to watch it move down and not go click, 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 click. Yeah. So now red flag's at the bottom here. So I'm just going to choose OK. And then use now. And I'm going to make some changes to it, but I just want you to see what it looks like so far. All right, so I'm not very good at filling in addresses, but that's what it looks like so far. So if I go to the details for Jill, let's just fill in a little bit of address stuff so we can pretend better here. So let's just say 1, 2, showing all my information. There should be a drop down where it's giving you information. I don't need that address. All right. Okay, so it's popping up. So I'm filled in that information there. I'm just going to save this. Oh, I changed the name of the person. Sorry, I didn't notice it. Darn Google. I got to change my Google. That's Google Fill Forms that's doing that. I don't even know who the person was there. So, sorry. You'll have to watch the playback and see who it was. Okay, I need to turn that fill-in forms from Google off because it annoys me when I'm doing stuff like this. All right, so anyways, you see the address formulating and showing here. I did that just because I really want to show you now how to maybe adjust these columns. So like if you want to make the columns wider, you can, but every time you go to Maximizer, come back in, it'll go back to that size that it was originally. So I'd rather you go back into View, go back into Column Setup, go to Properties this time because now we're going to be changing this column. So Properties is how we would change it. And now Address Line 1, I'm going to click on it and it flashes, of course. I need more room for that. So I'm going to, where it says width 15, I'm just going to change that to 25. Address Line 2, I don't care about Address Line 2. I'm going to say City Town, I'm going to change that to 20. And mail out, maybe I'll change that one to 30. So in case I have more than one mail out piece in there. Phone number 3 is way too wide. 45, don't need that many characters. Phone number 1, 20. Yeah, I wish there was a faster way of doing this, but right now this is the way you do it. So I'm going to say OK to this. And then now I've made changes to it. I have to say use now so that it lets me see that information on the screen. All right, it's a little bit better. Things are fitting a little bit better, right? With your column setups, don't be afraid to go in there, go to column setups, look at the ones that are listed in there. This is another place that I find people, play around with this sometimes, and maybe some of your predecessors at the office have played around with this and they've put some weird stuff in, not weird stuff, they put some stuff in there that doesn't really work for you anymore. If you go and view that column setup, so let's say contact view PM, I'm just going to say use now. All right, there's nothing special about this column setup for me. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to change to a different column setup. So that was contact setup PM. I'm going to change back to the one we had. Mail outs and use that one. And now I'm going to go delete that one. I can't be on that column setup and try and delete it because it won't know where to put my information. So it won't let me delete it. So you should just go investigate a column setup and go, oh, I don't know what that one is. You can write it down on a piece of paper and then come back and then change your columns to what you like. Then go back into your column setups. This is just one area I find people have sometimes a lot of old stuff in there that they just need to clean up. So I'm going to hit delete. It says it's in use, so it's not in use. So this would be the thing you'd be getting if it was in use, but I thought I'd just switch that. So I'll say, okay, thank you, computer, for not catching up to me. I'm just going to hit the refresh. I mean, it shouldn't be, the only other place it can be in use, by the way, is aside from the address book here under contacts, this is a column setup as well. So let me just double check. It is not lying to me. It is actually in use. So thank you, Maximizer, for catching that. I'll just change this one to contact view. Hit refresh. We'll pretend that was meant to happen. Good example. All right, so now we're ready to go back once it's done refreshing and delete that column setup. Okay, I think it refreshed now. So I'm going to go to View, Column Setup, see if it cooperates with me this time. I'm not, won't be surprised if it does something funky. Are you sure you want to delete? Yes, I am. There's no undo, and there's no undelete, but I'm sure. And all it's deleting is that setup, so it's not deleting any data, just the layout. So now that column view PM is no longer in my list. So I'm just making my list a little bit shorter. You know, example like this, default related entries, why is there 2 of them? So, I mean, I could delete more. I'm not going to do that right now, but it's nice to have a shorter list for yourself. And if there's more than one of you in the office, make sure if you want both of you to be using that column setup that you make them public. And when you make a column setup public, I'm just going to go back there one more time. I need you to look up. I need you to look at where it says show, because it'll normally say my column setups, which are the ones that you made. But if one of your colleagues makes one, you want to say all column setups, and that gives you more choices. All right. Okay, so you have different column setups. You see how you can, you saw how you can delete a column setup. You saw how you can delete a column out of the setup that you have. You saw how you can add columns. You saw how you can move them around with the arrows. And the big thing about this feature is just being patient with the computer and letting it change and not going click, click, click too fast. So now let's do a report. Let's send it to Excel. So if I have, let's say I do that search. What was my search? I was doing a mail out one, right? So let's say, I think it was in my catalog, wasn't it? Yeah, so the annual fundraiser, we'll say. Say I'm sending out to these guys. Okay, that search brought up a certain column. So I'm now going to change my columns to the one I made. Mail outs, use that one. And then I'm going to go to the Excel button here, export to Excel. Give it a second. And there it is. If I open it up, it should show me those 3 entries in those columns on the other screen. Hang on. It's just starting. Patience. Still loading. There we go. All right. So it's showing all of that. So even if you see the mail out column had way more stuff in it, even though I couldn't see it all, it's still giving me everything that was in it. So literally every column that's on my screen is in my Excel. So that's why column setups are so very important. Okay, I'm going to do one more example, and then I'll open it up for questions for the last 5 minutes. And the other example is kind of a little bit of a different topic. It's still about searching and reporting, but this time it's about searching within your notes. if you're using your notes to keep track of any kind of information, maybe it's a visits that you've had, or maybe this is very special information you know about some of the people that you have in Maximizer. So if you want to search out that information, you do have that option within the search area, and you have an option of reporting on it a little bit. The reporting isn't as great as this Excel spreadsheet here, but let's just do a note search. So I'm going to go to notes, and I'm going to set us up a little bit. So this one for Bill, he attended a barbecue apparently, and let's just look at Lizzie. Lizzie's got all kinds of stuff in hers, but nothing to do with what we're talking about. I'm going to add Hank, a note for Hank here, just to have similar notes going on, and I'll say he attended barbecue as well. Technically, you probably want to change the date. He probably didn't attend a barbecue today because it's pretty cold out, and I know you can barbecue, but you probably don't want to. It's probably more like a summertime barbecue thing. So you could certainly, in fact, just to make it right. I don't like having mistakes in my Maximizer. I'm going to just change it to a date. Sometime in June he attended barbecue. I'll pretend I remember. Okay, June 1st. And then Bill, when did you come? Oh, June was the year before. Right, so if I want to find out who all has attended barbecues in the last couple of years, I don't want to have a user-defined field that says attended barbecue in every year that they attended, because that would be a really long field. What might be better is for me to have notes on this. And there's fast ways of populating notes, by the way. I don't want you to type a note in for 50 people. You could do a global edit for 50 people and add that note in. But nonetheless, we want to search out those people that have that barbecue in their notes. So we're going to go to search. We're going to go to notes, and then the text that we're searching on, I'm going to just type in barbecue. I'm going to type in what I know for certain exists. If I type in attended barbecue and one time I put a colon and another time I didn't, it won't find both of them. But barbecue, if I'm pretty certain I always type BBQ, then I should be able to find those two entries. I do want to search a certain date range. If I say search all dates, it's going to look at every date in my Maximizer. That might take longer, so I might want to narrow it down to at least, 2018, 0101. Oh, that's not a date. 0101 to now. Sure, we'll say now. And then just replace the list. And I know I typed it in, so I don't need any of these other things. Again, it's going to be a faster search if I turn these things off. And I should get those two people. Two people attended barbecue. So I could have been saying anything. The guy had a red hat on, or the guy, the person that was interested in, assisting with the next fundraiser, or I know I have a volunteer option for that, but maybe he wanted to donate his karaoke machine. So you search for the word karaoke, or whatever. You type in a note and you want to be able to find where is that information. Just want you to know that that option is available through the search method as well. And documents, the same thing. If I save an email into my documents, I can search in documents for text in that document. So if barbecue was a part of that email, then it would search in there. I don't have one set up for that, but you do want to be careful of this one. So this one, you want to be specific with what might be in the document, and then again, give it a date range. Search all dates just means you're making it work harder and take longer to find that answer. But if you're not sure when it was, search all dates is for sure an option. All right. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into searching, something new that you can try. Searching is only going to be as good as the information you have typed in there, which that goes back to typing stuff in, making your Maximizer as accurate as possible, having user-defined fields that are really well laid out and well filled in, and then, of course, having notes if that makes sense for you to search that out. So does anybody have any questions they want to unmute themselves and ask me at this point, or want to chat with me in the chat window? How are we doing?
I've just taken everyone off of mute, so if there's anyone that wants to ask a question, please feel free.
There was a lot of information to cover in an hour, so hopefully you guys aren't too confused or overwhelmed, but have enough information to go forward with. No questions? Okay. Well, I'll leave that with you guys. So practice that, try it out, see how you can apply it to your own world, and I'll be here in a week working with those that are attending the customer service, or it'll be called customer service on my end, but it'll be cases on your end, and I'll try and do some examples of what case types you guys will have. Is someone asking a question?
No,
Shauna?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Connie, thank you again very much. I think we have the same group next week. I have sent out a webinar feedback form to everyone. It should be in your mailbox already. And if you could fill that out for us and return that to training@assembly.ab.ca, we can do more of these and help improve them every time. So, Connie, thank you again.
Thanks, Shauna. Bye-bye.